Us from India, and good afternoon to those viewing this in Australia. I'm Petula Thomas, CEO of the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Consulate General of India, Perth, who's the organizer of this event, the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce, Australia-India Business Council, Western Australia, and India Tourism Singapore office, who are partners for this initiative, I'd like to welcome all of you to the session, India, Western Australia Tourism Reconnect. I'd like to especially welcome our speakers for today, Acting Consul General in Perth, Mr. Naresh Sharma, Mr. G.D. Berwa, Ms. Caroline Turnbull, Mr. Michael Carter, Mr. Feroz Pestonji, Mr. Nishant Kashikar, Mr. Rajneesh Keshta, Mr. Daniel D'Souza, and Mr. Jasmeet Singh. It was wonderful to glance through the registration list and see that we have a great group of people attending, from government, business, the travel and tourism industry in India and Australia. I'd like to acknowledge Australian Consul General Rowan Ainsworth from Calcutta, who's here, and Ambassador Anil Wadhwa, who I note is also attending this session. Just a few housekeeping points. In order to reduce background noise, all microphones will be muted during the webinar, apart from the person speaking. At the end of the session, the panel will take questions. So my request is that as we go along, please type your question in the Q&A box available at the bottom of your screen. And if that question hasn't been answered, I'll pose it to a relevant panelist during the B2B session. If you could mention your question, your name or your company name, that would be fantastic. Thank you. We are recording this webinar session, and the recorded version of the webinar will be made available and also on the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce's YouTube channel, and we'll share that link with all. So to set the context for this exciting session, 2022 has seen Indo-Australia bilateral trade recovering at a fast pace, the renewal of the Australia-India MOU on tourism cooperation, and of course, the recent signing of the interim trade deal, the India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, the Indus-ECTA. So while with Australia reopening international borders, both governments announcing initiatives to encourage visitors to return, the pent-up demand and travel intent already translating into high volumes of visa applications on both sides, I think Mr. Sharma's idea to have this session to reconnect couldn't have come at a better time. This sector is very close to my heart. In fact, for those of you who don't know, I started my career in 2000 in the travel and tourism industry. That included 4 years with British Airways after IATA UFTA qualification from Geneva. After a break to complete my master's and have both my boys, second phase of my career, as most of you know, was with the Australian government for 1.5 years, senior roles with the British government for 6 years, and now leading the chamber for our members in India and Australia for the past 3.5 years. So of course, I readily agreed when I received the kind of invitation from Mr. Sharma to moderate this session. So today we couldn't have a better qualified panel to discuss the topic. And we've tried to ensure that you hear these experts focusing on different areas, giving you diverse perspectives. The drivers, enablers, vision for the coming year, market trends, what we can expect to see, opportunities, challenges, and what steps various stakeholders need to take for us to collectively help reach those exciting growth targets and upward trajectory. So my requested speakers is we try and keep to the allocated time so that we have sufficient time for questions and to make this interactive and impactful. With that, we'll move on to the inaugural address. And for this, I'm delighted to invite Mr. Naresh Sharma, Consul, Commercial and Head of Chancery and Acting Consul General from the Consulate General of India. But Mr. Sharma is a career diplomat. He is working as consul in the Indian Consulate in Perth since April 2021 and as Acting Consul General since November 2021. Mr. Sharma has served in Indian diplomatic missions and consulates in Sri Lanka, Sweden, Turkmenistan, Croatia, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Brazil in various capacities. He has also worked in the Ministry of External Affairs, New Delhi. Mr. Sharma holds a Master of Commerce degree from the University of Delhi and speaks over 5 languages. And with that, I think I'll hand over to you, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you, Patula. Namaste and good afternoon, everyone in Western Australia, Singapore, and good morning to all in India. I welcome you all to this virtual B2B meet. I would like to acknowledge and thank all our partners for their kind support in organizing this wonderful webinar. Thank you, Ms. Petula, CEO, Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce, for partnering with us and moderating the event. Mr. G.D. Bairwa, Assistant Director, India Tourism, who is stationed in Singapore. Ms. Caroline Turnbull, Managing Director at Tourism WA, for agreeing to participate at a very short notice. Mr. Michael Carter, President, Australia-India Business Council in WA. I would also like to thank all the stakeholders from travel and tourism industry who are going to make their presentations today. Mr. Firoz Pistanji, Founder and Managing Director of Aussie Perth Tours in Western Australia. Mr. Nishant Kashikar, Country Manager, India at Tourism Australia. Mr. Rajneesh Kaistha, Honorary Secretary, IATO. Mr. Daniel D'Souza, President and Country Head, SOTC Travel Limited. And Mr. Jasmeet Singh, Senior Vice President, Make My Trip, in addition to other dignitaries. India and Australia share a long history of friendship, strong people-to-people links, and a major trade and investment partnership, especially in areas of services, including education and tourism. There is an ever-growing relationship between India and Western Australia. In 2021, India was Western Australia's 7th largest trading partner, with total trade valued at $4.6 billion, accounting for over 17% of total trade between India and Australia. With the recent signing of the interim Australia-India Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, there are now further opportunities for India and Western Australia to strengthen this relationship. People-to-people link play a very important role when it comes to influencing people to visit a destination. There is a strong Indian diaspora of more than 100,000 in Western Australia who represent India and showcase India to Western Australia. India is a remarkable tourist destination which offers enormous experiences to travelers. India is also among Western Australia's top 10 markets for international visitors, with 24,505 visitors from India visiting WA in 2019-20, pre-COVID. Considering COVID-19 also, India was Western Australia's largest market for international students. In 2020, with around 9,000 students from India enrolling for higher studies in Western Australia. India is a vibrant land of startling contrasts where both traditional and modern worlds meet. While Western Australia offers travelers a spectacular scenery, gorgeous beaches to outback adventures, India has a lot to offer in tourism. There is everything for every taste. You can learn meditation and yoga in Rishikesh. You can see sand deserts and historical forts in Rajasthan. You can enjoy beach culture in Goa, backwaters and Ayurvedic massage in Kerala. You can see wildlife and tea gardens in Assam. You can see also famous Hindu temples in Jagannath Puri and in many states and in Tamil Nadu also especially. The list is very long. India also offers medical tourism in India and gives you an opportunity to get yourself medically treated at a much lower cost than in the rest of the world. If you have interest in watching world-class professional cricket, you can go and see Indian Premier League, IPL, 2020 cricket tournaments, and see your favorite cricketers from all over the world in action. India offers ease of travel to India. Now you can get Indian e-tourist visa online from the comforts of your home. You just have to sit with your laptop and fill online forms on the website www.indianvisaonline.gov.in and just pay nominal fee, which is fraction of the regular visa fee. You can pay that with your debit or credit card, and you will receive your e-visa in your email inbox within 2 to 4 working days. So that makes tourism very easy. Nothing will be, it will be not enough to say if we don't have a direct international flight from India to WA, which we have been lacking for quite some time, and all of us have been pitching for that. But these days, as you know, these companies are private companies. The airlines are private airlines, and they have to take a business decision on that. So it is up to the hand of you people who are tour operators and others, because as much tourism will improve, as much people will go to India or come from India, and so the traveling will become viable. Starting a flight will become viable for the airline industry, and that will give a major thrust to the tourism between the two countries. With these words, I would like to conclude and thank you all for joining the online event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma, for that great overview and insightful comments to start this off. We now have remarks from Mr. G.D. Berba, and he will focus on some of the general aspects of India tourism. Just a little about Mr. Berba. He's the Assistant Director, India Tourism Singapore. So India Tourism Singapore was a representative office of the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, and Mr. Berba is the Assistant Director. India Tourism Singapore is looking after the work of tourism promotion in the ASEAN and Australasia region. Mr. Berba has earlier worked in the capacity of Assistant Director in India Tourism, Frankfurt. Most of his earlier assignments were in the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, New Delhi. Mr. Berba, over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Petula. And good afternoon to all on behalf of Incredible India. Respected Mr. Naresh Sharma-ji, Consul General CGI Perth, Mrs. Caroline, MD Western Australia, Mr. Michael Carter, President Australia India Business Council, Mr. Nishant Kasikar, Country Manager Tourism Australia, Mrs. and Petula Thomas as well, and other friends who are present here. Incredible India is delighted to welcome back international tourists to explore exotic destination wonders and unique tourist experiences in India. India has witnessed a significant surge in domestic travel, as well as a steady boost to the overall outbound travel industry. The Indian tourism industry is quite hopeful for a speedy recovery, and there is a strengthened assurance with the upgraded health infrastructure and a successful vaccination drive, giving the message that India is safe to visit. The resumption of regular Air India flights between Delhi, Sydney, and Melbourne, the introduction of Qantas flights to Delhi, and code-sharing agreements between Qantas and Indigo have improved the air connectivity between the two countries. I hope with the better air connectivity, the appetite for travel will go beyond reunions, business, tourism, studies, and other affairs, and create a strong and huge growth in tourist arrivals from both the countries. In the post-COVID scenario, nowadays the new age travelers are looking for new and safe travel destinations that deliver unique and authentic experiences. India is ready for providing these experiences with a variety of niche areas and special interest categories with sustainability and indigenous experiences in the safe ecosystem of travel. As we know, Australian tourists visit India primarily for leisure, business, and adventure activities. In the year 2019, before the COVID-19 pandemic, Australia was the fourth largest market for India. And if we talk about the attractions of India, so as we know that India is one of the oldest civilization with a kaleidoscopic variety of rich cultural and natural heritage, with its colorful art, culture, delicious cuisines, vibrant traditions, serene nature, amazing diversity, and most hospitable people. The Golden Beaches stretched along more than 7,500 kilometers of the sea coast, a stretch of majestic Himalayas, desert dunes, flora and fauna, backwaters, national parks, tiger reserves, variety of wildlife, sky, land, and water adventures. These activities, India offers a range of tourism choices that make the journey full of unparalleled thrills. India is a great value destination for tourists. The tourist can travel as cheaply or as lavishly as they want. Tourists can experience ultimate luxury or stay in a budget accommodation or comfortable homestays. Alternatively, may go for a choice of a guest house. All are modern and welcoming. For the safety assurances of the visiting tourists to India, COVID testing and protocols are being followed, and the public is being facilitated with the COVID hospitals and helpline assistance in the states and the central level. To ensure compliance with COVID safety and hygiene guidelines, and for the safety and health of employees and guest customers in hotels, initiatives have been taken to create confidence in guests as a responsible hotel. Operation recommendations for COVID protocols are in place for different segments of tourism service providers, that making the air travel India as quite safe. As per the India Economic Strategy 2035 of Government of Australia, India will be important to the recovery of Australia's tourism industry. India was the fastest growing tourism COVID in terms of number of visitors to Australia. Australia will aim to achieve 1.2 million Indian arrivals by 2035, potentially worth over Australian dollar 9 billion as a year to the Australian economy. The prospects and vision of this policy will be a paradigm shift in tourism sector for both the countries. Looking at the present trends of travel between Australia and India, it is quite optimistic to say that the bright future of tourism can be perceived similar to traveling in 2019, and India and Australia both will leverage the benefit of tourism with the normalization and the opening of the tourism sector. With these words, I thank you. Thank you very much for providing the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Verma, for those insightful comments and giving us your perspective from the India tourism side. We now move on to remarks by Caroline Turnbull. Thanks again. I'll echo, Mr. Sharma's thanks to accepting the invitation and joining us at short notice. I think from Caroline, we hear, of course, a variety of perspectives, but also about the Western Australia-India relationship today, what some of the important statistics are looking like, and it's quite encouraging. Tourism Western Australia activities in India, including the marketing and trade engagement, the new Tourism Western Australia brand, and of course, the much talked about ICC T20 Cricket World Cup. Just a quick introduction. So Caroline Turnbull is the Managing Director at Tourism Western Australia and is responsible for the promotion of Western Australia as an incredible tourism destination, working with industry and government to improve access, accommodation, and tourism experiences, and delivering a world-class events calendar. Caroline has more than 20 years of international leadership experience in the tourism, hospitality, and aviation industry. And most recently, she spearheaded the development of the Western Gateway as Chief Aviation Development Officer at Perth Airport. So welcome, Caroline.
Tula. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon, and good morning, India. For those of you who I haven't had the privilege of meeting before, my name is Caroline Turnbull, the Managing Director here at Tourism Western Australia. And I'm really excited to speak to you this afternoon to celebrate the enduring and long-standing relationship between India and Western Australia and explore new opportunities for us to work together through tourism. As Petula mentioned, I do have a long-standing history in tourism and hospitality. I've spent the last 15 years being based in Singapore, where I developed and operated many resorts within the Arman Resorts portfolio. And India is actually really dear to my heart because I spearheaded the development of the Lodi Hotel in Delhi and a number of other properties in northern Rajasthan, including Armani Khas in Ranthambore National Park and Aman Bagh in Alwar. So I've been travelling to India for many years, and I've always recognised the huge potential, both from an inbound and outbound perspective. So now having the privilege of leading Tourism Western Australia and still having those close ties with India is really dear to my heart. So in my current role as MD for Tourism WA, I lead the organisation. We have a team of around 100 people, both here in Perth and across 11 key international markets, including India, to really promote Western Australia to the world as an incredible holiday destination and events destination. We work with a huge range of stakeholders and people, both in the private and public sector, to develop and promote WA's iconic tourism experiences. We aim to attract, big blockbuster events and sporting events to the state to really help the tourism industry thrive. And we do this through key strategic pillars around motivating visitation and ensuring that our marketing message, both from an interstate and international perspective, including India, attracts more people and desirability to visit Western Australia. And we attract and support a broad range of sporting events, arts, cultural events, culinary events, and also business events. And we work really closely with government and industry to improve access, accommodation, and tourism experiences to ensure that the service delivery is also world class. So taking a step back and reflecting on that past pre-COVID pandemic period that we all want to move forward from, but it's also good to reflect on where we were pre-COVID. In 2019, visitation to Western Australia was really strong. India spent around 60 million while holidaying here, and demand and appetite to visit Western Australia was really strong. And I think India at that point in time was around our 11th highest market in terms of visitors and around our 10th largest market in terms of spend. So we know that India was a powerful emerging market to Western Australia, and we're really excited about exploring and reinstating that and growing that even further. And so when we look today, even only being open for a few months, India is tracking extremely well. Now that we're on the other side of the pandemic, our level of excitement has not changed towards this market, and it seems India's interest in holidaying in Western Australia has also not changed. Last month, Indian arrivals to Western Australia, would you believe, reached 90% of pre-COVID levels, and bookings for June, July and August this year actually exceeded pre-COVID levels, which I really think is quite extraordinary. In fact, India and Singapore are the only international markets that have recovered to those pre-COVID levels of visitation, and Indian arrivals to Western Australia have recovered faster than the national average. So another extraordinary statistic. Out of Australia's top 15 international markets, India is the market most likely to be planning a long-haul international trip, with 3 in 5 Indians actively planning a trip to Australia in the next 2 years. So that's really exciting to see as well. And the Tourism Australia research shows that more than 75% of Indians said that Australia is top of their list for countries to visit as soon as the crisis is over. This return to Australia, and in particular Western Australia, is being led from those visiting friends and family target audience. And now that borders are open, Tourism Western Australia's objective is to retain our position as a top destination of choice for Indian tourists. And to achieve this, we'll be increasing our tourism marketing, our investment in this space and activities in India over the coming months and years ahead. So, exactly what is Tourism WA's investment and activity look like over the next couple of years? From a trade perspective, we are continuing to engage with key stakeholders both in Australia and India, including our top selling agents in market to drive consideration and intent amongst trade and consumers to book a holiday to Western Australia in the near future. Over the last 2 years, through our marketing and trade representation in Mumbai, we've been proactively engaging with travel trade agents to ensure that Western Australia is kept top of mind and really continuing to warm the market to ensure that awareness of WA hasn't diluted in any way. We've continued to work with our close partnership with Tourism Australia and building on that awareness and leveraging off their great activities in market and the trade engagement programs such as the Aussie Specialist Program. We work closely with Business Events Perth, BEP, to leverage the meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibition spaces and opportunities into market. And then the key area around aviation, which we know is so critical to further stimulating the market. We'll be building and developing relationships with our airline partners that we've continued during COVID to encourage new route opportunities and increase access through Perth, our capital city, and to further establish the Western Gateway. The Perth-India traffic dispersal, we know that Delhi and Mumbai accounted for approximately 50% of that bi-directional traffic between India and Perth before COVID in 2019. And we know currently that the India-Perth service is reliant on third country carriers. So over 80% of the traffic between Perth and India is either via Singapore or KL at present, with Singapore Airlines holding approximately 40% of that market share. We also know that Perth offers the highest yield between Australia and major Indian cities, with additional cost-saving advantages of 24-hour aircraft rotation, saving fuel and catering costs and increasing aircraft utilisation. So I'm not telling you things you don't know, but we've got a really robust business case to be presenting to the airlines moving forward. We also know that Perth and Delhi business class yield consistently outperforms. Western Australia has strategic proximity to Asia's mega economies. There are around 720 odd Perth-based Australian stock exchange companies compared to the likes of Sydney and Melbourne, around 600 companies in Sydney and 350 in Melbourne. So it just goes to show the close business ties between the two jurisdictions as well. Other key activity later this year, we will be launching our new exciting global tourism brand that really builds around the aspiration for the destination and appeal to what we call high-value travellers. And so those that are seeking to stay longer, disperse more and engage in our tourism experiences, we really believe in elevating our narrative and bringing out that beautiful lifestyle brand that we represent so beautifully and bringing that to the Indian market to appeal to the high-value travellers. I'm really excited to be coming back into market in July, together with our Deputy Premier and Minister for Tourism, the Honourable Roger Cook. He's very excited to get out and to visit India, to engage with our key trade partners, our key airline partners, and the tourism industry as a whole. He'll be joined by myself, Perth Airport CEO Kevin Brown, and Business Events Perth CEO Gareth Martin in mid-July to build critical new industry relationships. And this mission will be led by a wonderful new Investment and Trade Commissioner, Ms. Nashid Chowdhury. I think she's on the line today, I'm not sure. And last but certainly not least, we'll be raising awareness of and leveraging WA's key offerings and events such as the upcoming ICC T20 Cricket World Cup later this year. Perth is clearly delighted to be a part of the T20 and in Tourism WA's marketing activities will be strongly encouraging Indian cricket fans not to just come and watch a few of the games over that time, but also travel beyond to our major gateways and get into our fantastic regions over that time as well. So yeah, just to summarise, there are just a number of our key strategic partnerships on to continue to grow and capitalise on the wonderful opportunities in India to promote Western Australia as truly a premium travel destination of choice. I'd like to thank you all for having me as a guest speaker today, just to touch on some of those key tourism opportunities, and really to come together as a collective ecosystem where we can work together as we rebuild that momentum and discuss mutually beneficial opportunities for both India and Western Australia. And I truly look forward to working with you all in the future. I look forward to visiting in July and building on our strong relationship. So thank you very much for your time today. Back to you, Petula.
Thanks very much, Caroline. I think very encouraging messaging, and definitely I think many of us are looking forward to that trade delegation from Western Australia. We now move on to remarks from Michael Carter. Michael will be talking about the importance of two-way tourism, among other things. So just a little about Mike, although he's a very familiar face and doesn't need much of an introduction. So Michael has more than 28 years of experience in international engagement, business development, and government liaison. This has included working in various senior management and marketing roles in the public sector with Austrade, including as Trade Commissioner to India from 2007 to 2015, and various private sector international roles in food and agribusiness, road infrastructure, and others, consulting in Australia and the UK. Michael is currently the president of the ARBC Western Australia chapter and vice chair of the Asia Business Council of Western Australia. Over to you, Mike.
Namaste, and to my friends south of the Deccan in Tamil Nadu, Vanakkam. I'm absolutely delighted to join you here this afternoon. At a time, I guess, where the world is really having a look at how we take forward what was once a $9 trillion global tourism industry, and the role that India, with its $160 billion or thereabouts industry, and Western Australia, with its $11 billion Australian dollar industry, can move forward together. And I think you'll agree with me, it was very encouraging to hear some of the statistics from the earlier presenters, which clearly sets that there is a foundation in which we can move forward and take that relationship and the opportunities in tourism to that next level. I'm been really encouraged by some of the terrific campaigns that both Incredible India and WA Tourism have, if you like, exploded onto the trade and the consumer market. And I think, we really have to understand just how important tourism is, in addition to what it does in generating revenue and providing for the flow of people. It really underpins and supports that whole international education agenda. It promotes that whole investment and trade agenda. And as we've just heard through the earlier speakers, the importance of those people-to-people relationships. And so when you put all of that together, it really sort of suggests that, the Indian Ocean doesn't separate Western Australia from India. It actually brings us together. I mean, we were once joined at the hip. When we look at India's coastline, which is just about 8,000 kilometres, and Western Australia's coastline is about 12,000 kilometres, you can see clearly in areas such as water sports and tourism associated along the coastline, that there's great opportunities for collaboration. And in fact, I can recall when I was posted to Chennai from 2011 to 2015, we were undertaking some work with a aquatic theme park here in Western Australia that were looking to work with a partner just down the road from Chennai. So I think, that's just one example of areas that we can look forward for future collaboration. I think there's a wonderful opportunity for the cross-pollination of exchange of ideas and partnerships in areas such as skills and training and hospitality. When we look at technology, for example, and smart city development that's been applied in urban city growth, I think there's a wonderful opportunity for that sort of collaboration to happen in the tourism industry as well. Ways in which we can work together across the Indian Ocean to provide for a far more efficient delivery of that whole experience. So you can imagine the development, say, of smart hotel concepts or smart resort type concepts that can be about the collaboration between India and Western Australia. After all, you know, India is very much the hub and spoke of the region, given the predominance of the large multinational corporate IT groups, and collaborating with startups and digital organisations in Western Australia would certainly make one think that there are opportunities in that space. Comment was made earlier about sport and the cinema, and certainly I think there's a wonderful opportunity to amplify that and look at ways in which that can help build a tourism agenda. I can recall when I was based in Delhi, hearing about Australian rules football clubs in Kolkata and Mumbai that had performed admirably in regional Australian rules football matches in the Pacific Rim. One hears about, I don't know if they're still in Chennai, but there was a small surfing clinic, if you like, or surfing club that were teaching locals how to surf. So I think there's some of the other areas of collaboration that government and industry can work together on, which will certainly have a profound impact overall on the growth in tourism between incredible India and wonderful Western Australia. I'm delighted that the Western Australian government is taking the trade delegation to India from the 12th to the 19th of July. And as Carolyn Turnbull pointed out, one of those key focuses certainly will be around tourism, creative industries. And I think that's really important. It's more than just trade and investment. It's about that people-to-people engagement that really builds those relationships, and what better than through the delivery of activities and programs that can really strengthen that tourism agenda. I mean, here in Western Australia, we have an Indian diaspora that's almost 1 lakh. So I think there's a wonderful opportunity to look at promoting the opportunity for two-way investment into the tourism sector. Both India and Western Australia, as I mentioned earlier, are blessed with long coastlines. So certainly, I think we should look at ways in which we can encourage that two-way investment into tourism as being such an important part of building the industry and really taking it into the future. So in conclusion, I'd like to sincerely thank you for inviting me this afternoon to share some thoughts. I too will be joining Carolyn very shortly in India, and look forward to the opportunity to engaging with you, and thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Mike. I look forward to seeing you when you're here with the delegation soon. And I think thanks very much for highlighting the potential of boosting tourism and the relationship between Western Australia and India. With that, we conclude the remarks and actually move on to speakers. And we've kind of divided this up into 2 ways, where we'll hear first from the Australian stakeholders. So we'll have presentations by Feroz Bestonji and Nishan Kashkar. So we'll start off with Feroz. And he'll be talking about the natural attractions and things to do for tourists in Western Australia and highlighting all the good things that it has to offer. So just a bit about Feroz. He was educated in India and worked in Mumbai before migrating to Australia in 1992. In 1998, he purchased Perth Maxi Charters, later expanded and founded Aussie Perth Tours in 1999. Then it was called Aussie Destination Tours in 2005 to cater to the Indian and international market looking at Australia and New Zealand. He has been promoting Western Australia and India since 2002, taking part in various travel shows, exhibitions, and along with Tourism Australia and in the Australia-India travel shows. Feroz is very active in the local Indian community since 1995. So Feroz, looking forward to hearing from you now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
can hear
Thank you,
you.
Michael. Thanks a lot, Petula, for a lovely introduction. And it's absolutely a privilege and an honor to be on the same platform today with the likes of people like Naresh ji and yourself, Bhairava ji, Caroline, our General Manager, Tourism Western Australia, good friend Nishant, friends Daniel, Jasmeet, and Michael. Great to be on the same platform as you guys. It's absolutely an honor. And as you know, and as Caroline did tell you a little bit earlier, that we are privileged to be in Western Australia, one of the best places on the planet right now. What with the COVID and all these things we had for last 2 years, absolutely a safe place, one of the safest places I think on the planet right now. And just to let you guys know, we have been pushing for Western Australia in India since 2002. With the recent bilateral treaty between Australia and India, I personally and many of us feel there's lots that we can achieve, and that will definitely go a long way in bridging the gap between India and especially Western Australia. As we all know, Western Australia and India are close to each other than the eastern states. The number of international airlines, right from which fly through Singapore and Thailand, KL, Hong Kong, Bali, Bangkok, that come to Perth, brings people from most parts of India into Perth in about a 9-hour flight with a 2.5 or 3 hour maximum layover. So anybody who wants to come over from India into Western Australia, looking at just a day's trip, so about 12 to 14 hours at the most, depending on the carrier you're coming through and where you're flying from. So that gives us a lot of leverage. We have a better connectivity with that. Of course, with Caroline and with her experience in the aviation, we are all hoping that she will push for getting some good direct flights coming through, which has been on the agenda for a long, long time. Western Australia boasts of a lot of new products that we have over here. And main thing that we have is the natural sites. The places like Pinnacles, Wave Rock, the endless beaches, the thousands of kilometers of wildflowers, the beautiful soils of the Broome area, the Cable Beach, and coming down south to the huge forest to the southwest. There is everything that a person can find in Western Australia. So as we say, the best of Australia is in the west. So why would you want to go in the east? That's going to put a bit of a bump on some friends in the east, but that's the way it is. We think where Western Australia has everything to offer. So we have our Fremantle cultural place. We have the beautiful city of Perth, one of the most livable places on the planet. And of course, if you are keen to go for adventure, we have the Kimberleys and the Gascoyne, and up north over there, there's a lot of virgin territory where thousands of kilometers you could be traveling and not meet a soul, which does make it a bit dangerous as well. But of course, boasting of the Swan Valley region, which is about 25 minutes drive out of a capital city in Western Australia, probably the closest winery growing region in any capital city in the world, I suppose. So there is a lot to look forward to. And when the people, you see the pink lake that has been displayed on the screen right now, one of the most unique places, and Western Australia boasts of not one, but 2 pink lakes. And you will see the water like that, or even redder throughout the year. It's not just a phenomena that we have added some color and taken the photograph. It's like that throughout the year. So unique places. Western Australia boasts of very unique flora, fauna, animals. We all know about the kangaroos. This is a wave rock, which is a 2.1 billion year old granite formation in the form of a wave in the ocean. And it's about 250 kilometers from the closest ocean wave. So unique things. We have the Pinnacles. Then we have the winery grow region. A lot of the Indian agents have the issue of food, but let me assure you, we have so many Indian restaurants in Perth, and almost every regional area in the Western Australian region has got Indian restaurants. We have catered for Indians right from about 2005 and never had an issue with pure vegetarian, even Jain meals. We have even arranged for the Maharajas to come through and help the guest not to have any gastronomic issues at all. So right from a few new discoveries that Western Australia has given to the world, from the Fuji apple to the recently innovated black apple, which is an absolute wonder, we have everything to offer the people who come from India, right from technology and the natural sites and the lobsters and the wildflowers, the lonely beaches. You could be traveling in some parts of Western Australia for thousands of kilometers on the beach without anything on if you want and not meet anybody. So you don't have to worry. I wouldn't try and do that, but that's the way it is. So things are very, very good over here. Even once you have the initiative and you start coming out of that box that everything is in the east, but the best is in the west. So with that, I would like to conclude. And also let me tell you, there's a lot of impetus coming on for this is we have done a lot of big group shows, and also like from singers from India coming, like Sonu Nigam on the screen, and to the politicians. And we have recently done the Karnataka and Haryana assemblies. That's Shreya Ghoshal, the singer. So we have been organizing a lot of big shows. We have done big groupings for Godrej and Voice and American Express and Amway and things like that. So coming back to the other way around, there's also the thing that Australians are traveling into India big time, and with the huge infrastructure and the recent government upbringings happening in India with very nice accommodation and food issues and health and hygiene and everything clearing up, we have huge amount of demand for the Golden Triangle, of course, and places like Kashmir and Karnataka and Bengal are coming up very fast. Gujarat and Punjab and Rajasthan, of course, always lead the way into Indian tourism. But Maharashtra and even Andhra Pradesh, and they've got a huge amount of historical stuff there. So big impetus for Australians to now travel into India and get both benefits of both sides. So apart from Aussie Portus, which does the inbound into Australia, we also do export to people into India. I think I've covered most things, and I'll have to give some time to Nishant, otherwise I'll be in big trouble. Nishant, all over to you. Thanks a lot, guys, for giving us a hearing.
Thanks very much. And I think, in the interest of time, we might have to skip the B2B question answers, but we do have speakers we definitely want to hear from. There's Nishant, there's Rajneesh, Daniel, and Jasmeet. So we can have you keep your remarks to 5 minutes each, please. That'd be really great. I'll just take a few seconds to introduce. So Nishant, I think as many of you know, he has a career spanning over 2 decades. He's kind of done it all. He's joined Tourism Australia over a decade ago. And as a captain of Team Australia, he has been responsible for driving visitation and tourist spending by raising Australia's awareness and appeal in India. Under his leadership, arrivals from India to Australia have more than tripled in the last decade to reach 400,000. And he has been instrumental in strengthening the people-to-people links between the 2 countries. And I think that many of us who will, stand up and bear testimony to that. Over to you, Nishant.
Thank you so much, Petula, and good to see you all. Feroz, thanks for taking us on a virtual tour of WA. I hope in a few months' time we'll actually get to witness a real tour, personally escorted by Feroz Pestunji. So really looking forward to that. But let me start by saying that the next decade truly belongs to India, and there's no other country that offers as much potential to Australia, Western Australia in this case, than India. And Western Australian government and tourism, TWA has been quite proactive, and they've well and truly recognized the opportunity offered by the Indian market through their multiple visits. The minister has been visiting the market for on a number of occasions. The premier has been, in India as well, and then Carolyn now is also going to lead a delegation in July. So really looking forward to that. Now, I'm going to keep it short and just highlight these 5 things that the Western Australian industry needs to do to gain a larger share of the Indian leisure market and the business events, or the MICE market, as we say. The first thing that we need to do from a WA perspective, and that's because WA has been slightly a later entrant as compared to the eastern states, is to build a product which clearly differentiates the WA offering as compared to what the East has to offer. So if you were to get maybe top 8 or 10 key distribution partners or Aussie specialist agents from India and have them interact with, again, 5 to 10 inbound tour operators or destination management companies from Australia, take them on a wonderful tour of WA, and at the end of the tour, just lock them into a full day session where they design this wonderful product for WA, which could be a 3 or 4 night product for those who are going to add Western Australia as a part of their Australia itinerary, just an additional city, or those who want to just come and explore the beauty of Western Australia over a 7 to 10 day holiday. So create those two products that clearly differentiates the WA offering, and then keep promoting those products for the next 3 to 5 years. So that's the first thing that we need to do. Carolyn, has, she's going to lead a delegation. We got to do that more often, because out of sight is out of mind. And we all agree that relationships play such an important role in our industry. Now, talking about relationships, it slightly works differently in India, primarily because in India, you first build friendships and then you do business, right? Whereas in other parts of the world, you first do business and then do friendship. So building those relationships, having lunches and dinners with your friends in India, attending their weddings, the big fat Indian weddings is also equally important. Be good friends, be good mates, and then you actually start doing business. So that's very important. Learn from industry veterans like Feroz. Carolyn has also got an experience of working in India. So those industry operators who have never been to India, I guess it's important to learn from those Australian businesses who've been successful in India as well. And that's how you start making inroads in a market like India. Once you develop the distribution ecosystem, the next thing that we need to do is to create those compelling reasons for Indians to come to Australia or Western Australia. So this could be through various advocacy and influencer-led campaigns, through consumer and media campaigns, through partnerships. So whatever products that we've developed, we work with the KDPs. We've got Dan from SOTC and Jasmeet from Make My Trip, two of our largest leading agencies and online travel agents in the country. So work with them to build and share this with their past customer databases and across the social media ecosystem. Also, you got to be picky when it comes to India. India is a large and a fragmented market, so focus on 4 to 6 cities as we move along, and then gradually expand your network, relying on the distribution ecosystem of our key distribution partners. The third thing is all about aviation, because unless and until you don't have those birds flying between India and Perth, you won't be able to attract more tourists. So. And I must compliment the efforts undertaken by Kevin Brown and Stephanie Juskovich over the past 4 or 5 years. They've been religiously visiting the Indian market, meeting airlines like Vistara, Air India, Indigo, attracting them to fly towards India. And I guess since Qantas has already tasted success in India, I don't think it's going to take much time for them to consider flying out of Perth into India as well. So aviation is equally important. But in the meanwhile, till such time we have direct aviation links, it's important to capitalize and leverage the one-stop aviation links via the Southeast Asian carriers by working with Singapore Airlines, Malaysia Airlines, Thai, Scoot, AirAsia, because there's enough capacity that they offer into India and into WA as well. The fourth one is around major events like the ICC T20 World Cup. And October 30th is when India is going to play South Africa at the Perth Stadium. And we're going to see a lot of Indian flags being waved at the Perth Stadium. So getting the world's attention on WA is important, and events like the ICC T20 World Cup plays a very important role. Last but not the least is the business event segment, which is really quite important, because that's one area or a segment that can immediately give you 400 to 4,000 passengers coming to your destination at one go. And these business event travelers or delegates would then bring their families to explore the destination. So we also have an attractive offering in the form of the business event bid fund. So there are large size groups of 700 plus who contribute over $3 million to the Australian economy. We offer attractive incentives, which varies from 25 to 30 lakhs Indian rupees or 50,000 Australian dollars. So we contribute an equivalent amount. The business events Perth would contribute an equivalent amount, and therefore sweeten the deal and ensure that the corporates choose Perth as the next destination for business events. So just to summarize, I guess it's important to create a vision, a dream. Maybe from a 30,000 packs count, we could look at 100,000 packs count from India to Western Australia over the next decade. And to achieve that, it's important to develop these products, these quality experiences, create a compelling reason for consumers, build those aviation links, focus on events like the ICC T20 World Cup, and then not to forget the business events community. I'll pause here and pass it on to Jasmeet and Dan. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks so much, Nishant, for that. And I think we move on to the presentations by the Indian travel and tourism agencies. We'll start off with Mr. Rajneesh Keshta, who is with the Indian Association of Tour Operators, IATO. He is he completed his Master in Tourism from Delhi University, has over 35 years of experience in the tourism industry, and has traveled extensively in India and abroad, visiting many countries. working with various organizations. He's a director of Paradise Holidays, and he's been with the IIT over the last 10 years in various capacities. Over to you. And, I think, again, just my request, if everyone can keep to 5 minutes, with that, I think we'll just be 10 minutes forward time. Yes.
Thanks, Petula, for handing me over. And knowing my time is 5 minutes, I'll see how best I can cover, because India is a country which can't be covered in 5 minutes. You need 5 lifetimes to cover India, at least to know what India is. And another thing, I am not here to market India, to give it to the Australians for East or West or North or South. It's India as a whole. We invite all the Aussies for the whole country, the India as a whole, the East, West, North, South, and we are here with all 1.35 billion people with open arms to welcome them. My thanks to Mr. Naresh Sharma, His Excellency, the Consul General with the Western Australia, Mr. G.D. Berwa at the India Tourism Office Singapore, and other colleagues for organizing this show. You see, India for first-time visitors, and it's for repeat visitors, it's alike. Much of India's fascination lies in the fact that it's both a young nation and an ancient country rolled into one, where past and present constantly survive together. So here I must bring one thing to your notice before going on to the slides what I have, that we have done almost 2 billion vaccines in India, and it's counting. Almost 93% people in the country already have one vaccine, at least each. And it's going to the youngsters from the age of 6+. So we are very much safe now, almost COVID-free. The life is normal. The masks are only probably the airports are very crowded public places as a precaution. And everything is normal. The tourist sites are open, the religious sites, the Himalayas, the beaches, tourism is all over within the country. Now, I quickly tell about Indian Association of Tour Operators. It's an association with 1,700 members who are part of Indian tourism, and they represent more than 90% of tourism coming into India. The tour operators, the hotels, the airlines, the service providers, all are the member of this association. And it's been there for almost 38 years. My humble request, when you're looking at India to travel, come and book through an IATO agent. Trust me, you're in the safe hands. Whatever Government of India, Ministry of Tourism does in policy making and various other details, they always do it in conjunction with IATO, with their brief. So that's about the IATO. Next, please. Now, post-pandemic has told you, the recovery has been very, very fast. I know Australians look for safety, security, hygiene, the SOPs to prevent COVID, they all are in place. Seamless travel is one thing. If you think of India maybe 5 to 10 years back and now, has changed a lot. The last mile connectivity has really gone to the last mile when I say that. The roads and highways have improved a lot. Our airports have become quite modern, state of art, and constant upgradation of this is going on. Within India, the airlines are, a lot of private airlines, actually all are private airlines now, and they're traveling, crisscrossing the country with best possible connections. Responsible tourism is one thing which IATO and Government of India promotes together. Just last week, we had with United Nations and Ministry of Tourism about the one-day meet for the responsible tourism as to how we can go for to make sure that tourism does not spoil our own heritage and does not leave carbon footprint. So maximum emphasis is being given on that. A lot of new products have been coming, and places like, I'll give you a small example. We have now 40 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. One of the new products, the latest one is the Dholavira in Gujarat, which is something very, very interesting. The May The name may not be familiar to you, Dholavira, but there are so many of them. If you see the UNESCO heritage sites, you will have 40 reasons from there only. Next, please. As I said, safety, security is a prime motive, and 1.92 billion instead of, we have, as I said, 2 billion people vaccinated. Then we have all kind of a digital experience, skilled manpower. It's all is there. We have already started getting in touch with various tourism boards at ITO. We have already signed a contract with DRV, the German Tourism Bureau. We are in the process of signing with the Singapore Tourism Association, the NATAS and then MATAS, and obviously looking for more. And I'll be more than happy to extend the invitation to the tourism boards in Australia, including Western Australia, to have a memorandum of understanding signed with ITO, where we can do both way, inbound and outbound to both the countries for tourism purpose. Next, please. The USP of India is the cultural heritage and spirituality. You see, Indian culture, like its people, is a rich mosaic whose myriad elements have been born of its ancient roots, its foreign influence and regional varieties. The culture is something which cannot be compared with anyone. The Indian culture, which comes from thousands of years, has been always attracting people. There is a lot of it which you can experience in various parts of the country. We have our tribes, we have almost 700 dialects, various regional cuisines, various crafts and arts which are there for you to experience when you are there in India. And spirituality and religion is one more thing. Of course, one of the ancient religions, Hinduism being there, then Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, originating from it. And we have beautiful monuments which cover the origin of Hindu temple architecture from 2,500 years onward. And they have been beautifully preserved, beautiful, and they have been carbon dated. So they are factuals. Spirituality, what more I can say? The yoga, the meditation, it's all there. It's known internationally. People worldwide follow it. And during the COVID times and post-COVID, a lot of people are seeking to India for its these details and looking into the Ayurvedic treatments. Just allow me a little more time. Then our heritage, our palaces, our unique forts, they all are there for you to come and visit. It's like whether you travel to the north, you see the Golden Triangle or the Golden Temple Amritsar. It's been dubbed as the most frequently visited place, the highest numbers, the Golden Temple. Or you go down to south or the central India. East is very invigorating now. People are beginning to travel to east. And from there onward, I will say that we also look into the luxury. Offering on a holiday from basic people, youngsters who are looking for on a budget, we can give you a luxury of $500 to $5,000 a day, the way you wish to have. And our luxury trains, which sell a lot in Australia. So that's why I got one of our luxury train films also to be shown instead of India film. So kindly show the video, and I'll appreciate if you can go with the Luxury India train video. And thank you very much. And we look forward to welcoming to India. Thank you, madam.
Thanks very much.
The voice, I think it's muted. I think there's something problem with the sound.
Yes, we'll be happy to share the
All the beauty is yours. All the music is yours. India showed me that luxury doesn't follow designers and brands. True luxury follows its own heart.
Incredible India.
Thank you very much. We look forward to welcoming you to India, and of course, both ways. And thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashish. I think that kind of, was the equivalent of the lovely visuals from the India side and earlier what, we saw from Western Australia. We now move on to our two industry experts, and my apologies, Daniel and Jasmeet, that you are the last speakers, but I think very interesting and something that we definitely want to hear your expert insights on. So first with Daniel D'Souza. So Daniel has over 20 years of experience in the travel and tourism industry. He has been responsible for building a strong sales organization and capitalizing and broadening the franchisee network and streamlining processes at SOTC. With a clear focus and vision of SOTC being a customer-centric organization, Daniel has made significant contributions in driving the customer experience journey. He also is responsible to drive the holiday business across all channels. Really looking forward to hearing from you, and over to you, Daniel.
Thanks, Petula, and thank you, everybody, all the colleagues on this call. I represent the Thomas Cook Group, so it's two brands actually, SOTC and Thomas Cook, two of the biggest mainstream brands in the country across the travel spectrum. And I'm happy to be speaking at this moment because India is, we would say, about to explode in terms of travel, where all the parameters are moving upwards, and I think it's a great time to be speaking to all of you. So what I'm going to talk about is give you a sense of the visible opportunity that's there in the Indian travel segment, and also some changes that we're witnessing in consumer behavior, so that it helps you also plan of what you need to do moving forward. If you look at recent reports, I think the sector has been contributing to the Indian economy, and it's already surpassed the pre-pandemic levels. It's registered almost a 20.7% year-on-year growth, reaching about $215 billion. That's almost about 1% above 2019 levels. So that clearly indicates whatever you're saying. I heard Caroline talk about almost hitting 90% of the levels. I think this clearly indicates that we're moving forward. Pre-pandemic, I think the sector normally contributes close to about 7% of the GDP, and that's what happened in 2019. But it fell by almost about 41% in 2020, and for reasons well known to us. But just to give you a sense of the outlook for the next decade, it's extremely promising. We are expected to grow at about 7.8% annually, and this would actually contribute close to about 7.2% of GDP, reaching about 457 billion. So I think that's the bigger story that we are looking at, and we want to be part of. That also means that over the next 10 years, we'll be creating about 24 million jobs in the travel and the tourism sector, which simply indicates that every 5 jobs across the world will happen from India in the travel and tourism sector. So that's the kind of explosion that we're talking about, and that's really big, But coming to what's happening right now in India, I also told Petula will speak about what consumers are doing and what's happening in the markets. I think over the last 2 years, most operators, I'm sure Jasmeet will agree, and Nishant as well, that all of us have been involved in rebuilding the organizations, and recreating structures, because obviously our revenues went to zero over the last 2 years with no travel at all. So we had to completely rebuild, restructure the teams, look at opportunities of integration, and especially in our case, we had to integrate much more with both the brands inside. But what we saw happening was we saw different consumer behaviors at different, different sectors or different months of the year over the last 2 years. Like, for example, when pandemic started, we saw people taking staycations, weekend breaks, and that was absolutely booming. And as the year progressed and things opened up, again shut down, again opened up, what we did not lose is the intent to travel. And I think that's the core of every Indian, and I think that seemingly has gone through the roof right now. If you look at the current moment where we speak, I think India a lot of people have traveled within domestic. So Indians who never traveled domestic have started traveling. So you saw places like Kashmir, Rajasthan, Northeast, for example, completely go beyond unestimated volume. So all these places, even now today, if I have to get a room in Kashmir, it's very, very difficult, even for us. So that's how India has performed. But what we are seeing, and one more important thing is we saw everybody traveling to religious destinations. As soon as we saw COVID getting over in the month of Jan, I think everybody was heading to a temple somewhere in the country. And even now, as I speak, Chardham, for example, which is one of the most holiest places, we completely gone beyond volumes. So that's how India is. But today, the current scenario, if I look at April, May, what's happening is everybody wants to travel abroad. We've seen unprecedented demand. We cannot even compare to any 2020 levels right now. If I have to put a number on the demand graph that we're watching on our websites, I think it's about close to about 200% is what we would peg it at. That's the level of demand that we are seeing. But what's happening today is that people are deciding destinations based on multiple factors. The one primary factor being visas. So where I have a visa, I would like to fly to, and where there is capacity. And you won't believe today airfares are almost more than 40 to 50% higher than normal fares. And people are still ready to pick up that bag and go on a holiday. And that's the kind of demand we are seeing. We, in fact, are refusing bookings. There are destinations which we never saw such uptake, like Greece, for example. Every week, we've never had a departure in the past. So we've been having departures every week in spite of all the visa issues that we have. But one interesting point is, I made this point even when I visited Australia. I think looking at the current scenario where US visas are closed, Europe visas are in a mess. I think Australia has a great opportunity, to capitalize on this next 6 months that we can get customers there. And as we speak, we have about 350 customers in Gold Coast on a MICE group. They just finished their holiday, I think, a day back. And they had a wonderful experience and great hospitality, and they had a wonderful tour. So things are getting to look better, and India is there. I mean, India is right there, and I agree with most of you that we need to be ready for the market, and we'll be there. That's it from me. Thanks, Petula.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. That was really, really encouraging, and I think a great perspective, what industry is looking at and what we can expect to see as well. We now have Jasmeet Singh, who's Senior Vice President, Make My Trip. So as Senior Vice President of the Make My Trip Group, in his current role, Jasmeet works on building the most versatile strategic business unit, holidays, experiences, activities. He is responsible for its profit and loss, customer experience, and all the other operational areas. He's also responsible for leading and growing a big and diverse team of over 850 plus women holiday experts who work from home, fulfilling numerous holiday dreams of their customers. So I think Jasmeet's going to take us through some of the challenges in the industry and what needs to be done to overcome that.
Thanks, Petula. And going at the end is like playing in slog over. So I'll try and keep it crisp. Thanks for that virtual tour, Mr. Pestonji. And like Nishant beautifully put, that the next decade is ours, and Daniel echoed it too. So undoubtedly, and I'll try and keep it to, I hope I'm audible. There's some, yeah, okay. So undoubtedly, Western Australia, which is, I think, the subject as well, is stunning with landscape, which is different than what has been popular in Indian market per se. Given the fact that our platforms see maximum travel searches in the country, and we further slice it from Australia as a whole. Sorry, there's some audio issue. I'm extremely sorry. So I was saying that the kind of traffic we see on a platform, and when you further slice it from Australia as a whole, the ratio is literally 90-10 when it comes to Eastern and Western Australia. So there is a clear need to work on the mouth of the funnel, as we call it, which essentially means that Western Australia is still not on top of Indian consumers' minds. So from opportunity perspective, while there may be a lot that everybody's talked about in order to build new products, luxury for HNI, promoting multi-country, etc. But while all of us are very excited with the presented opportunity, there are some challenges that we perhaps are playing, or they are playing spoil sport largely. So I feel that there is a need to develop, and I know it's been a burning topic, but there is a need to develop direct entry point to Western Australia. I think this used to be the case pre-COVID, and but I honestly feel that whoever, and we do a lot of consumer research, this is one thing that we need to focus on. For example, pre-COVID, if I remember it correctly, Singapore Airlines, Scoot, AirAsia, all of them were flying into Perth. So that I think clearly needs more focus. Unfavorable airfares. I think somebody pointed out the airfares across is now almost 40-50% higher. So that needs some attention. And like I mentioned, our searches do not suggest that it being on top of the mind, and I'm talking about Western Australia as a destination, and is also in some shape and form is still not perceived as a very top of the mind holiday destination. So for Indian bookers, so like there was a laser sharp focus pre-COVID to build awareness, needs to come back. For example, all of us know what Saudi is trying to do, and it's a great example to learn from, and hope we see something similar coming our way as well. So these are few, in my view, are the burning ones, and hope we do get some respite soon and enable us to do Western Australia a little better. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmeet. I think that's a great way to to wind this up by taking us through a bit of the realistic challenges that the industry faces, and which I think needs to be kept in mind by everyone when moving forward on that. I think we don't have any questions as such, but if we'll check a little bit later if there's any, I'm sure you will share it with the speakers and get back to you, as well as share the video and presentation and the overall link. So I think with that, I'd just like to say thank you, a few thank yous. Thank you to the Acting Consul General, Mr. Naresh Sharma, and his team at the Consulate General of India in Perth, the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce, Australia-India Business Council, Western Australia, and India Tourism. As well as to Nishant Kashikar from Tourism Australia, who worked with us, and it's great that we now have we got to hear from Daniel and Jasmeet through him, and to all the expert speakers, all of you for sparing the time to be here today, and to colleagues from our chamber, Aditya and Ruben, for supporting this event, along with the consulate in Perth and other partners. And of course, to everyone who's been an incredibly, patient audience. I'm sure you've got a lot out of this session. I definitely have, and I think after doing a lot of travel in India, I'm definitely thinking of, I think Feroz's visuals were so attractive that I think you feel like packing your bags up and going and checking out Western Australia. So with that, I think looking forward to the delegation as well that's coming in. So Caroline, Mike, all of you with the Deputy Premier. And thank you very much again, Mr. Naresh Sharma, and all of you. I think this is just the beginning, and of us discussing, reconnecting, and look forward to the next one. Have a great day. Thank you for your time. And if the panelists can just stay on, we'll do a group photo. Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Petula. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks, Jasmeet and Dan as well.